This is the access route called Delamere Lane.
That's a fish farm on your left-hand side.
This approach road to Heron Lodge is approximately half a mile from the end of Townfield Lane. This is about number 3 in terms of the highest floods since my records began in 2000. Equivalent to the height, if not higher, than the height of the flood in December 2000, the 9th of December 2000. It's already over chin height at the bottom of the lane where it joins, just before it joins Townfield Lane. Fish Farm Drive is coming up on the left hand side, and it can be seen that the water level is actually flowing in over the bunding that the fish farm have created to help flood defences. It's flooding into the fish farm over the bunding. The fish farm, instead of being all separate 12, 14 different ponds, is one complete pond of water, despite their efforts to prevent water getting in. I'm just approaching my cottage, my property, Heron Lodge. We've got to park up on the left in a minute because we have got to avoid the current flowing in front of the property, so we have to park up just behind this small retaining wall to enable us to get out the boat. We'll try and go forward, but you'll have to lean forward a little bit, keep the prop off the deck.
Wasn't up this high that year, was it? It was only to the gate, wasn't it, before?
That's a bit of good sailing, that was.
Right up to the gate. Well, past the gate.
Was that recording my voice there?
Yeah. We've got water in the boat as well.
Yeah, not much. This is the front of the cottage in its raised position, featuring the bedroom extension to the left hand side. The small window on the ground floor is the very small original bedroom before the cottage was raised. That lower part of the cottage has all been completely restored following the major floods of 2000.
Okay.
This is the north, what I call the North Meadow. The River Dee bank is in the far distance, so you can see that the river has exceeded its bank level and filled up the North Meadow adjacent to Heron Lodge property. Just scanning over to the right, it shows you the extent of the flooding to the nearest neighbour in terms of a dwelling, which is featured just upstream, as it were, now from my cottage, and looking out over to the cottages. I believe one of them's just recently been bought by Ricky Tomlinson, the actor. Okay. This is the footings for the hobby room stroke study stroke store that Chester City Council originally gave me permission. Well, they didn't give me permission, they just said I wouldn't need planning permission to install it because it was an ancillary building. And it's actually sited where all the old sheds used to be on the northern boundary to the North Meadow, which, when it's not flooded, of course, carries the public right-of-way of the riverside footpath. Scanning through now, I'm going down to the water garden that I've created. It's full up with water now because one of the the reen or the ditch between the fish farm and my property has overtopped itself before I've been able to complete my water garden retaining bank. But it just shows you what the garden will look like with the water, the central island there in the pond, and over towards the waterfall area at the back, and the landscaping can be seen leading round. This is what the Chester City Council, all of this ground here, my garden, what I call my garden anyway, and all of the landscaping and all this raised ground here back to the front of the cottage, they state has got to be removed, and the High Court injunction has been upheld so that all this ground will have to be removed and the garden returned back to its former level. So where I'm standing now, in the case of this flood, round the corner of my conservatory looking south across the property, all of that ground will have to be removed to its old level to comply with the injunction. So thereby what I'll be doing right now in filming this, if the ground was removed, I'd be sort of chin deep in water around the cottage, completely surrounded by water. There'd be no access, so once the flood arrives, you would not be able to get out of the cottage and walk around. You'd physically be marooned in the cottage. And I understand it therefore that the cottage won't comply with Section M of building regulations, which govern access, I believe. So I would not be able to park my car on the front of the property. There's no parking facilities on Denomere Lane, as you've just seen coming up there in the flooded conditions. It's so narrow you can't park vehicles there, and I would not be able to come up, particularly where the boat is now located, through my front exit entrance and onto this area here that provides me with a parking area to get out of my car and get into my cottage through what is the front door.